In today's news, a leading epidemiologist urges the government to delay declaring COVID as endemic. The deadline to apply for the 60-day COVID visa extension lands on this Friday, and police jail a 70-year-old woman for growing just one marijuana tree as medicine. All this is coming up in today's program. You're watching Thailand News Today, bringing you the latest top stories in Thailand and beyond. And in our first story, a leading epidemiologist has questioned Thailand's rush to declare COVID as endemic as infections and deaths surge. Dr. Chakarat Pitayawong-Anon, director of the Bureau of Epidemiology, is suggesting officials slow down a bit as he casts doubt on the wisdom of trying to declare the virus endemic by July 1st. Despite raising the country's alert level to level 4 on February the 21st, the CDC last week announced a roadmap for transitioning the pandemic status to endemic. However, Chakarat points out that the highly contagious BA2 subvariant is still raging through the country, creating a surge in cases and an increase in fatalities among the unvaccinated and vulnerable groups. According to a Nation Thailand report, the infectious diseases specialist points out that this mutation is just as severe as BA1 and 1.4 times more contagious. Chakarat says most patients in Thailand now have the BA2 variant, and he expects case numbers to rise following the Songkran holiday due to people returning to their home provinces, potentially infecting elderly family members and relatives with underlying health conditions. Chakarat says that data from February the 13th to 19th shows that out of every 100,000 people in the provinces, at least 100 had contracted the virus. On February the 21st, 32 patients had died from COVID, most of them elderly or with underlying conditions. 60% of those who died were unvaccinated, while the remainder had not yet received a booster dose. Considering current infection trends, Chakarat says now might not be the time to be making plans to declare the virus endemic any time soon. This Friday is the deadline to apply for the 60-day COVID visa extension, which is no longer offered to those on a non-immigrant visa under the latest order. The extension is intended for those who cannot return to their home countries due to the pandemic, and the deadline has been pushed back numerous times without any formal announcements from the Thai Immigration Bureau. The visa extension was initially offered to the majority of expats in Thailand, but with the global COVID situation improving and travel restrictions gradually lifting, Thai immigration has become more strict with issuing such extensions. Those who enter Thailand on a tourist visa and visa exemption will be allowed to apply for the extension, but approval is at the discretion of the officer and will depend on the situation. The extension is no longer offered to those with a visa on arrival, according to the recent order. Moreover, Ukrainian and Russian tourists who are unable to return home due to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine are able to apply for a 30-day visa extension for free. Expats with expiring non-immigrant visas, which includes those in Thailand for work and education, can get a stamp to allow an additional 7-day stay to book flights and get affairs in order before leaving the country.
Good Morning Thailand gets up to 80,000 viewers per week, and we'd like to weaponise our audience for you.
That's right. So if you have a business or property or even your house that you'd like to sell.
Private yacht?
Yeah, we could be in space.
I'm not sure about space.
Well, all you have to do is contact us on info@thethaiger.com, and you can hire us up to a day or even a week, and we'll go to your property and do the show live.
Good Morning Thailand, coming your way.
Bangkok ride-hailers can grab a new option next month as AirAsia's parent holding company Capital A plans to launch its first ride-hailing platform in the Thai capital in April as it continues an aggressive foray into non-aviation businesses after the Malaysian airline suffered significant pandemic-era losses. According to the company's regional CEO, Lim Chiu-san, the new service, dubbed AirAsia Ride, will begin with some 5,000 taxis in Bangkok before expanding to private drivers in other key cities. AirAsia ride first launched in the Malaysian capital of Kuala Lumpur last August. It currently covers all of Malaysia's major cities, with monthly bookings in the 6 digits for its 30,000 registered drivers. The platform's total rides increased on average more than 60% each month since the launch in 2021, recording more than 700,000 rides to date. Notably, drivers take 85% of net fares, excluding toll fees, which the company claims is more than any other e-hailing platform on the market. As the government plans to administer booster vaccines to 70% of the elderly population before Songkran, Thailand's health minister is urging them to come forward. According to a report, Anutin Chanvirakul is telling 2.1 million elderly people to make sure they're protected before the Thai New Year holiday next month. The Department of Disease Control is liaising with public health offices around the country to ensure as many people as possible can be inoculated as quickly as possible. Anutin says village health volunteers and religious leaders are being asked to talk to senior citizens in their areas and encourage them to get vaccinated. The health minister says people should try to get their vaccine around 3 weeks before Songkran, pointing out that it does take some time to build up immunity. Health officials are anxious about the potential fallout from people returning to their home provinces over the holiday and visiting the elderly, unvaccinated relatives. Those who plan to travel to their home provinces have been advised to avoid high-risk activities before travel to minimize the risk of contracting the virus and spreading it to vulnerable family members. Meanwhile, Dr. Prasit Watanapa from the Siriraj Medical School at Mahidol University says he's hopeful the situation after this year's Songkran will not be as concerning as last year's, due to a combination of Thailand's high vaccination rates and the dominant strain being the less severe Omicron variant. However, he says the elderly and other vulnerable groups still need to get vaccinated to ensure they are protected. The Thai government has approved a budget of 500 million baht to purchase supplies of Pfizer's antiviral treatment, Paxlovid. It's understood the fund is part of the government's 8.4 billion baht pandemic budget. Deputy government spokesperson Traisuri Traisawnkul has confirmed budgetary approval for the procurement of Paxlovid. The Bangkok Post reports that 7.7 billion baht out of the government's 8.4 billion baht COVID-19 budget is being allocated to frontline healthcare workers and medical staff. Traisuri says the funds will be allocated to the purchase of Paxlovid and will contribute to efforts to overcome the COVID-19 crisis in Thailand. Thailand has used various medications in its attempts to treat mild symptoms, including favipiravir, molnupiravir, remdesivir, and green charetta, known in Thai as Phathalaijon. Last week, a leading medic from the Thai Red Cross Emerging Infectious Diseases Clinical Center called for the use of favipiravir to be phased out and replaced with molnupiravir. According to him, there is insufficient data to demonstrate the efficacy of favipiravir. And that's all for our report. Thailand News Today will be back tomorrow. Meanwhile, you're not up to date on the Thaiger.